1. Marker. Action.
Hello, greetings from Las Chismosas on channel 34. My name is Samia Davis. Today we have some breaking news about the Enlightenment, nationalism, and imperialism. Recent iNews reports indicate that Europe is one of our most advanced continents due to their technology and achievements. Let's go live to report where we have Laura covering the breaking news. Take it away, Laura.
Being unified during this time of enlightenment is very prominent. Romantics who partook in the movement of Romanticism are fascinated with nature and are inspired rather than relying on reason. Nationalism is threatening large empires, but it's also uniting people who share the same culture. Deists are arguing that God created the world just to sit back and observe its movements according to natural laws. Also, we see how many revolts against the government cause for the government to make a change and implement reforms. Now we're going to be talking about the scientific revolution's impact on politics. These are some of the background events that are happening at the moment. And I'm going to start by saying the first one, which is Enlightenment thinkers are trying to apply science and rationality to thinking about human society and politics. The second one is if people are beginning to use experimental mathematics to understand mysteries. And finally, thought and disbelief to social and institutional organizations. They're really big when we're talking about the scientific revolution. Now we're going to be talking about two of the major events that led to the scientific revolution. One of them is the heliocentric discovery by Nicholas Copernicus, and the second one is with the advent of empirical science for the first time in human history, we have a precise and reliable means of obtaining knowledge about the universe. Finally, we're gonna this is really important because this event is gonna be really significant in the future because we will be able to go to outer space and figure out different stuff about the universe because of the heliocentric discovery. If we didn't have the heliocentric discovery, we wouldn't know that we revolve around the sun and the sun doesn't revolve around us. Enlightenment thinkers are trying to apply science and rationality to thinking about human society and politics. The Enlightenment is causing a change in political structure because scientists like Isaac and John who started to challenge the old order. John asserted the right that there should be a change in government if they do not protect natural rights or life, liberty, or property. The effects of this were that people are beginning to lose faith in God or other religions. These cause and effects are related because the beliefs or ideologies that philosophers are able to influence others. The cause and effects are important because political adjustments are heavily applied to our everyday society and can easily change people's perspectives. These are the causes and effects of the age of reason. One significant cause is that people are beginning to doubt the existence of God, who could cause predestination or empower a king. Europe would be forever changed because of these ideas, and that is our... We're going to go back to another reporter who is going to be talking to us about imperialism.
Many nations, including the US and China, are extending power through the use of imperialism. We also know that mass production or cultivated crops are only for export, causing famine to the farmers who are relying on it. Cash crops are being taken out in large scales, causing soil depletion and environmental degrading. Western education is replacing culture, which is creating a non-native middle class. The Monroe Doctrine has been established, which is a policy that states that European nations should not interfere in the affairs of the countries in the Western Hemisphere.
Oh, hey there! Now we're going to be talking about imperialism and some of the events happening during this time. There was a rigid social structure. Japan and Russia were being industrialized. Industrialized nations wanted access to raw materials for their factories, and they also wanted precious metals and jewels. New beliefs among imperial powers that European races were superior. Two main events that caused imperialism was one, Industrial Revolution caused people to move from rural to urban areas. Another event that caused imperialism was industrialized nations strengthened their control over their colonies and established transoceanic empires throughout Asia, the Pacific, and Africa. Industrialized nations wanted access to raw materials for their factories and precious metals and jewels. This is important for us today because if it wasn't for a need of resources, nations would not have reached out to intertwine with other trading systems, and it would have been difficult for us to have the resources that we have for everyday life today. Labor work and its conditions. Some of the causes was forced labor, unsanitary conditions, and starvation, which led to the effects of physical abuse without pay, no medical attention, and reduced food rations. The relation between the causes and effects was that Colored people weren't given the correct care in concentration camps after the Boer Wars when the British Army moved Afrikaners and Africans out of their home. The experiences of slavery in the past should show us to reflect upon when thinking of slavery today. The institution does not only affect those who are enslaved, it seeps deeply into all aspects of our society.
We will now be comparing and contrasting the Enlightenment and Imperialism. The Enlightenment is different for the following. The scientific revolution, a concept used by historians to describe the emergence of modern science during the early modern period. Skepticism, a theory that certain knowledge was impossible, arose. Romanticism, an artistic movement that spread widely in Europe and the Americas in the 1800s. Imperialism is different for the following. Social Darwinism was a theory of evolution by natural selection over the course of millions of years. Monroe Doctrine, European nations should not intervene in the affairs of countries in Western hemispheres. Cash crops and mineral resources are taken out of large scale. The Enlightenment and Imperialism are similar because of political interest, extending power becoming more large, and unification becoming a united or becoming a whole. These two images right here indicate a time period from the Imperialism time period, and these two indicate time periods from the Enlightenment. Change in continuity over time. The first topic we'll be discussing is political rivalry for power. Things that change were nations bullying each other into giving up their natural resources and constant pressure from outside territories. Things that ain't the same were expanded territory to create fear, becoming a militant society, and global dominance through empire building. Nations bullying each other into giving up their natural resources. They would bully each other, which would later lead to wars because one side felt like they were being mistreated. Same. Global dominance through empire building. Anyone in power extended their wealth through expanding territory. Those with newer tech meant advancing in imperialism. Changes are important because if it wasn't for the development of natural resources then, we wouldn't be as resourceful as we are now. Similarities are important because if nations didn't bully other nations for their natural resources, they wouldn't have expanded their wealth and territory. Changing continuity over time. Our second topic is political reason of science challenges. Things that changed were ideologies and philosophies. They would be ended forcibly. Revolts and uprising would occur when new ideas arose. Things that stayed the same were new beliefs would challenge and interfere with government policies and more. Social hierarchy was kept intact. Revolts and uprisings would occur when new ideas arose. New ideas caused confusion and challenges for the government, and they would feel threatened because at any given moment these new ideas would become revolts. Similarities. New beliefs would change and interfere with government policies and more. The Enlightenment thinkers would impact moral, social, and political reform. They debated rules of people in society which upset the government. These are both important because back then reforms weren't exactly 100% beneficial. But because it had to do with social rights, Enlightenment thinkers challenged this and they saw a change. Changing continuity over time. Our second topic is political reason of science challenges. Things that changed were ideologies and philosophies. They would be ended forcibly. Revolts and uprising would occur when new ideas arose. Things that stayed the same were new beliefs would challenge and interfere with government policies and more. Social hierarchy was kept intact. Revolts and uprisings would occur when new ideas arose. New ideas caused confusion and challenges for the government, and they would feel threatened because at any given moment these new ideas would become revolts. Similarities. New beliefs would change and interfere with government policies and more. The Enlightenment thinkers would impact moral, social, and political reform. They debated rules of people in society which upset the government. These are both important because back then reforms weren't exactly 100% beneficial. But because it had to do with social rights, Enlightenment thinkers challenged this and they saw a change.
The economic control of trade, take 2, and action.
Changing continuity over time. The last topic we will be discussing today is economics control of trade. Things that changed were mass production of items. It caused for items to be cheaper. Merchants would increase prices, causing infrastructure and social class. Things that stayed the same. Mercantilism. A nation's power was based on wealth. Rivalries would increase when scarce resources. Things that changed were merchants would increase prices, causing infrastructure and social class. Merchants would get items at a low cost but would sell it at an increased price, making a shift in social class and their rights.
Similarities. Rivalries would increase with scarce prices. Unethical behavior because there would be migration of people and economic gain would immensely decrease, causing infrastructure. This is important because when merchants would increase prices of necessities of everyday life, lower class status people slowly began going down in the social class structure, creating a very low status community. Similarities are important because if there wasn't a need of resources, nations would have not advanced in trade and we wouldn't be as resourceful as we are today.
Now we're going to be discussing our thematic learning objectives. How have different forms of governance been constructed and maintained over time? Different forms of governance have been built and maintained over time by rules or laws being enforced by strong political leaders, through legal systems and reforms, which in a sense gave others a voice. For example, when philosophers like Isaac and John disagreed with the government, they started revolts and reforms to see a change within society.
Now that Brianna has told us about the first learning objective, I'm going to be talking about the second thematic learning objective. To what extent have different ideologies, philosophies, and religion affected social hierarchies? The variation of belief affected social hierarchies since religion has been around long before in civilizations, shaping the worldview and standpoints of people within society. Religion and ideologies not only affected everyday lives of the people, but also played a huge role in political standpoints and social views due to opinions from those with power who were heavily influenced by religious beliefs.